Hi, everybody. This is our Trello training, and I'm really excited to have all here. A lot of what we're going to talk about is how an assistant can jump into this process with you if you have one. And if you don't have one, that's totally fine. I know that there are several people joining us in different stages of your business, but I want to show you an overview of how these Trello boards work and then how you can use an assistant to help support that process, and even some tools that I found that make the process a lot easier to jump into. So I'm going to kind of just keep going, but if you have questions, please either interrupt me, unmute yourself, or type them into the chat. This is kind of an interactive experience because I know that every time I do these trainings, a lot of people have questions. So don't hold your questions back. Just spitfire them at me and I'll see if I can help support you. Okay, so let me share my screen with you and kind of give you an overview of my intention here as I created these. Okay, so, well, actually, hang on a second. Before I share my screen, I'll share my intention real quick. So I created these templates because I know that in doTERRA, especially, there's so many different funnels or processes that people need to go through to be successful, either well-nurtured builders or customers or prospects. And so I wanted to make this an easier, simpler experience for you as doTERRA leaders so you can follow people along simply and help make sure that each person is supported in the best way. So that might even look like, for prospects, what is every step that each prospect should go through? Even in the back to basics, we learned several different steps that make each person best supported. And so I'm going to show you some of those steps and how you can drag those people along in the funnel, and then how your assistant can help support you in that. So that's my intention, and that's why I created these different templates. And they're free to anybody that you want to share them with. If you want to use my link, though, I would prefer that you send them the link that I'll type here in the chat in just a moment if you want people to use your teams to download my templates. And it's just meganlloyd.org/Trello-templates. And so if you want your team to have access to these, that's totally fine. Just have them get them on my site. So let's just jump right in, and I'll start showing you what I've created. And some of you I know have already taken a dive into these, and so I'm going to give you a basic overview, and then we'll kind of go into a deep dive so that those who haven't seen this before are caught up to speed. Okay, so these are some of the different templates that I've created, and I'm going to start off with the reactivation funnels real quick, because and know that these are just for the reactivation funnels. I'd recommend are only for like maybe platinums and above, who maybe have a lot of people on their team who need to be reactivated. You can certainly use these reactivation ones if you're a lower rank, but these were sort of intended for those that are higher in rank and have a lot of people on their team that need to be reactivated. And so this is how this works. Basically, Trello is drag and drop. You can move different cards along in the funnel, and I've created templates for each and every part of every funnel. And each one includes basically the entire process that someone would go through to be successful. And here's that template. So let's say you have someone on your team, and we're going to call this person John. You just copy the template card that I've already created, and suddenly it automatically populates everything for that card for that person. Then we're just going to move John along in the funnel. And your assistant can help you manage this. So if you're like, wow, I just don't really want to be in here and doing this every day, I would recommend that you have your assistant jumping in here, and they can start adding people to your schedules. And I'll show you what that looks like a little bit later. But this is something you can do side by side with them, or really have them manage it mostly for you. So when we have someone in your customer reactivation funnel, they obviously need the initial check-in call. Like, how are you doing? I know that you've been on my team for a while, and I would love to help support you. What can I do for you? And I've included some of those scripts here in the resources. So the genius of this is that all these different resources are tools to make this part of the funnel happen. And so you don't need to recreate your funnel and find resources to make these things happen. If you have a different part of your funnel, to add those onto your Trello boards, you just click over here and add another list, and you can drag and drop this part into whatever part of the funnel you do. So it's customizable to however you do your own funnel, whatever you use for your customers. And I wanted to show you really quick too how to bring people in, because the first step is, how do we get people from my back office here? And so this has been a big question that a lot of people have had. So I'm going to show you this really quick. I'm going to stop sharing so I can log into my back office, and then I'll log in just a moment so that you all can see what it is that I do when I'm bringing people in from the back office. because you're basically, I hope everybody's familiar with this feature, but you're basically going to go to the back office and go to the mailing labels feature, and you're going to download all the email addresses, the contact information for the people on your team. And then I'm going to show you how to copy and paste them into your boards. So once I get into my office, I'll share my screen again so that you can see what I'm doing. Okay. Okay, here we go. So I'm in my back office, and when I'm in my back office and you're clicking on back office, you click up here on Wellness Advocate Services and click on mailing labels to get to the page that I'm in now. And this is where you'll generate the mailing labels for or the email addresses and all the contact information for people on your team. So if we're looking at your customer qualification board or reactivation board, sorry, then this is where I would get that information. And you can create filters on who you're trying to get. If you just want your personal enrollments, then you can do that here by switching this from sponsor to enroller. And you choose the ranks that you're looking for. If that's everybody, then great. Then you just click update report, create mailing labels, and then something will download, and a CSV file will download to your computer that looks like this. And I've kind of made some dummy data for you so that you can see it. Now the weird thing about Trello, so if this is Bill's entire information, if I just copy all of this into Trello like this, it's going to copy in kind of weird. It will look like this. So if I'm trying to create a card for John here in our area, and I want to include his information here so I don't have to copy and paste every little thing, it actually copies kind of funny. That's what it ends up looking like. And so I'm going to show you really quick how to make it so that it's easy to copy everybody in individually. That's not weird. So what I do is I just copy all of this. What we're going to do is we're going to transpose, and your assistant can help you with this if you have one. So we're going to click Control-C for copy, and down here I'm going to right-click Paste Special and click on Paste Special and just click Transpose. And then what it does is it turns the columns into rows and the rows into columns, so that now when I copy Bill's information in this column, it copies it much nicer into Trello. And then it looks like that. And, or you can even do a checklist if you want to have all of his information down here like this. So that's one way to add all of Bill's information, so that it's a cleaner way to add each person individually into your boards. And again, this is something that you can have your assistant go in, like your qualifiers are, most of you are going to be doing personal enrollments here, right? You're not going to be bringing everybody, all 40,000 people from your back office into your boards. These are going to be the people that you specifically are with, and then your leaders should also have their own boards so that they're working with their people, and then it kind of duplicates down. So don't feel like you have to export every single person, just work with your enrollments and go from there. So now that John is here and we've added his information, then we can start moving in the funnel. And again, the initial check-in, and I've included some reactivation scripts that you can use, and some product, shipping, when you're reactivating somebody, we like to offer them like a freebie, like, hey, if you would love to get back into your essential oils, I have some free product for you. And so I'm not going to go too much into this funnel because this one's pretty self-explanatory as you move along. But basically, anything that you can think of that your assistant can do, they should be doing. So shipping product is one of those. If you're going to be doing a wellness check-in for someone you're reactivating, your assistant should get that person on your schedule. So if they're in this column, it means they're waiting for a wellness check-in, which is basically a lifestyle overview, and you all know how to do that. So you just need to make sure that your assistant is watching everybody on the board and getting people onto your calendar. And different ways you can use a calendar are Google Calendar. You can share a Google Calendar with your assistant, and you can say, on these specific days and these specific times, I will always be available for lifestyle overviews. That way, when your assistant reaches out to someone and says, hey, I would love to connect and help get you a free lifestyle overview with your upline in doTERRA, so you can ask all of your essential oil questions and create a customized wellness plan. And then they just get them onto your schedule and put them on your calendar, your Google Calendar. Or you can set up a Calendly account. And I'm going to type that into the chat. It's Calendly, and it's one of my favorite resources when I'm getting people to book on my calendar. And if you've you know, known me for a while, you know that I use Calendly quite a bit. Actually, Jamie, if you're on, can you type the Calendly link into the chat? Or any of the assistants that are on, since they know these resources that I'm talking about. That would be really great. And then if they haven't already enrolled, so the customer reactivation is, these are people that are already enrolled. And then the LRP enrollment is obviously part of the reactivation, is getting people on LRP, helping them to see the value in what discounts they can get if they're ordering monthly. But first, we need to kind of get them educated about the oils, right? Why would they want to order monthly if they don't have a full understanding and robust understanding of the oils and what they can do for them? So the continuing ed series is a big part of that. And I've included all the resources here that are in the Back to Basics. So if you're not in the Back to Basics Facebook group, I recommend that you go there. It's the Elise Chedevy one. It'll have her face on it. And they include so many things like the PDF PowerPoints, or the PDFs that you can send to people if you're doing a virtual class. They have the PowerPoint, so you don't have to recreate the PowerPoint. They have like punch cards to show when people have completed the classes. I've even included some scripts that you can use. Anyway, so many different things that you can use. So all you really need to do is jump in and start, you know, scheduling a class and teaching so that you can, and getting people on your class. So this is the basics of this board, and then we're going to invite them to share. Then we're going to send them some samples if they want to host, you know, maybe some things to get their class set up, and then maybe invite them to build later on. And your 3, 6, and 11-month check-in, my intention here is, we know that people, if they don't get regular touch-ins and check-ins, they're going to fall off and they're not going to be fully supported. And so around 3, 6, and 11.5 months, I've included some scripts that you can reach out to your customers and say, you know, how can I support you? What do you need? And this is where you can do that. And I say 11.5 months instead of 12 months, because we know if they've been inactive or haven't purchased within a year, then they drop off your organization. And so we don't want that to happen, right? We want to let them know, like, hey, whenever you order next, you might notice an additional $25 charge on your account. That's just the yearly fee for your account, so you can continue to get wholesale pricing. And the coolest part is that doTERRA sends you a free peppermint when you do that. So it's really like getting the account for free. So just know that's coming the next time you order, and it kind of preps them for that to happen. And then you prevent people from dropping off on your team. So that's the customer reactivation board. I really want to jump more in detail though on the prospect boards and the customer boards as well, but I'll kind of give an overview of all of them so that you know how to use them. So that was the customer reactivation move. Oh, I should mention on the move funnel, that's for people also when you see people that need to be moved that are not being supported in specific parts of your team, it's time to maybe move them and put them on a team that they will be supported. So that's also where you would do that. Okay, now let's look at the prospect funnel. This is one that I actually think is really fun. So again, we're just going to click on this little create from template, and we're going to add John, let's say, or we'll say Julie, since we haven't done that one yet. Julie is our prospect. This is someone who is not enrolled yet, and we're going to move her along the funnel. And you'll see, because I use the create from template button, it includes all of the information for that person. And so ideally what you or your assistant would be doing, in addition to dragging them along, you would be clicking and adding notes for each person here in their card. So if they've had an initial contact and sample, check off all the steps that they have completed, so that when you come back in and you're working with multiple people, you can see at a glance, oh, right, that's where this person is and where I left off. And so it's not something missing. Okay, so make an initial contact. We've included some resources, all from Elise Chedevy's Back to Basics steps here. When you make an initial contact with someone to, introduce the oils to them, those are some scripts you can use. Now here's where your assistant can start jumping in and playing around with you. So samples to be shipped. My very favorite resource for shipping samples is Pirate Ship. And Julie or Jamie, if you can add that into the chat as well, if you're still there, one of the other assistants. Pirateship.com is basically wholesale shipping, USPS shipping. You can print labels from your home and have somebody pick them up off your porch, and there they go. And so you don't have to spend time at the post office and everything. And this is the ideal place for your assistant to jump in if you are doing a lot of shipping. I've included a lot of shipping supplies in this resource that you can send to your assistant. I recommend sending a big box of material that your assistant can just do all of your shipping for you. And there's a list of all the things that you can send to them. Now, the next thing is a sample follow-up. So obviously you're probably going to be making that follow-up call that says, hey, I know that you received your samples. I would love to check in and see how they went for you. But we sometimes forget to make those calls. So your assistant, I've included at the top here, if you have an assistant, he or she can remind you to follow up with these people by putting them on your calendar. And again, you can use Calendly, you can do a shared Google Calendar, and you just let your assistant know the times that you're available to book times on their calendar. And it includes all of the different scripts that you can use as well for that conversation to happen. Now we're going to move Julie to, it's time to invite her to a class, and that would probably happen in the sample follow-up call. And here are some resources for that to happen as well. And then we move them to the reminder. We need to remind them that the class or one-on-one is happening. And there's just so many steps, right? Like, it's hard to remember all the things that each person is going through. So if you have an assistant, he or she can jump into this part and actually schedule text messages or emails or social media post reminders for people to attend that class. And you can send them one-on-one as well. And so one of the things that I really like is something called textmagic.com. And it basically in the US, it gives you for $4 a month, a dedicated phone number that you can, with a dashboard and a phone app, that you can send either group messages or one-on-one messages, and you can schedule them, which is sort of unreal and amazing. So that if you know that you have a class on Wednesday, you may want to schedule the reminders for those class, again, like the 48-hour and the 24-hour and the 2-hour, all the things that Elise says, you can just schedule them out one at a time and batch them so that it's taken care of. You're not sitting on your phone and sending all these emails. It's just batched and it happens without you needing to do much about that. Okay, so I'm going to pause really quick. Does anybody have any questions? I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything. Oh, whoops. Totally just jump in and interrupt me if you guys have questions. So I'm sort of just spitfiring rapid fire at you. Okay, now we're going to move Julie over to, it's time to actually teach that class or one-on-one. And I've included a whole list of things that if you have an assistant, what he or she can do to help with this process. So in addition to all the scripts for the classes, which is super great and helpful, and all the TERRA pads and the daily mentor calls link, I've included what the assistant can do. So to teach a class, for you to be successful and to be supported in that, your assistant can create the Zoom link and share it with the appropriate people. They can add the actual event to your calendar. They can email registrants or invitees with the class PDF, because now we know we have the PDFs for those, or for some of them anyway, and along with anything that you might want them to receive beforehand, especially if this class is virtual, which most of them are nowadays. And then they can even help you in the live meeting. So they can jump onto the live meeting with you, monitor the chat, stream to Facebook, do whatever you need to do so that you can just focus on teaching that class. And then we move Julie to, if you had any hosts that need supplies shipped to them, then your assistant obviously could do that as well. And here are some gift ideas and that you can send as either raffles or host attendee gifts that you can send to them. And I've just included a bunch of different ideas and links that you can use there. And so if you end up wanting to send any of these, make sure that your assistant has that in that big box of supplies that you're going to send him or her. Now we're going to do the follow-up with no-shows. This is where your assistant, so hopefully what your assistant is doing is jumping in on these boards every single day, and they're looking at who is where, and their goal is to move as many people down the funnel as they can by getting people on your schedule, sending out messages and emails, and whatever that step requires, just getting people moved along and communicating with you in the process, because there are certain parts that obviously you need to jump in for, teaching the classes, lifestyle overviews, and those kinds of things. So hopefully every day your assistant's jumping in here. Oh, and the cool thing is, I didn't even mention this. So in the very beginning, so if we have someone in the prospect that you want to send, you want to push them through the funnel, let's say that you're at the store and you meet the cashier and you just start talking oils out of the blue. and you say, oh, I would love to send you some samples. Can I get your contact information? So on your receipt, you're writing all the contact information and what you said you would send. Then take a picture of it, send it to your assistant and say, hey, can you add this person to the prospect funnel and get them some samples, get these samples that I said to send to them. And then voila, they're on their way. They're in the funnel and they're going, which is so cool, so awesome. So that's how you would get someone into this funnel. That's where I would start. And you may have a list of people that you're like, oh, I really want to send samples to these people. So call them, see if they're okay with you sending samples, and then just have your assistant start plugging them away. If they're written on cards everywhere, if they're kind of scattered on, you know, if you do, what are they called? Not workshops, but booths during the summer. I know a lot of people have those little contact cards all over the place that they haven't used. That would be a really great thing just to send to your assistant and say, here are all the people that I said I would send stuff to and never did. Can you help me organize it and get them on my boards? Okay, so now here we are back into our prospect funnel on the follow-up with no-shows. So if people registered for your event and they didn't show, or they said they were going to attend and they didn't show up, then your assistant can put appointments on your calendar to remind you to follow up with these people. Or they can even help you follow up with these people, like sending an email and saying, hey, we're sorry that you missed our class the other day. We would love to have you join another one. Here are some other options. And kind of get them moving along and keep them activated. Or sorry that you missed it. Here's the recording. We would love to know what you think, or something like that. Somehow create your engagement with that person, and your assistant can help with that. The enrollment, most of my clients like to do the enrollment themselves, but maybe you have your assistant help with that. I would recommend that if you have your assistant help you with getting someone enrolled, that they know how to upsell them and know how to talk about, like, you know, either creating their own little package or creating or signing up with a kit. So make sure that you talk with them about how to enroll someone, other than just going to the back office and enrolling them, how to make sure that they're supported and getting the oils that they need the most. So then once they're enrolled, you get to move them from the prospect funnel and move them to the customer funnel. And so if they're in this column, then your assistant knows, I need to move Julie over to my customer funnel. And they just click this little check mark over here and click move. And then you find your customer funnel, bing, and click move. And now when we go to the customer funnel, we will see that Julie is now sitting there waiting for us, waiting for the next steps, which is so awesome. So here we go. There's Julie. So pretty cool, right? So now we get to move her in the customer funnel. And this one is also really fun, and your assistant can do so much here. So now that Julie is here in the welcome email, I have a welcome email template that you can use, which is pretty awesome. And so I've included it as in a Google Drive, so you can just click on the drive and it will take you to the doc, or you can see the actual script here. And the reason it's in this format is so that you can edit it, so that you can make changes to it. And your assistant can send all of these out. Now, if you're just using Gmail, that's super great. If you're sending a lot of emails though, you may want to look into something like Flowdesk or MailChimp or something like that. I personally really love Flowdesk. And recently, I can't believe I didn't even know that this was a thing, but I have a link that makes it so you can get it half off for the rest of your life. So it's only $19 a month instead of the $38 a month. And so that's, I have that also that I can send to all of you who've attended. Okay, so that is Flowdesk. And actually, let me show you Flowdesk really quickly so that you understand how to plug someone into this process, or how your assistant can rather plug someone into this process. And I won't go over like the whole big tutorial, but what I would do is I would create a workflow. So that the thing about Flowdesk is you can send one-off emails, or you can send workflows. Workflows are like evergreen emails. So let's say that you have new people that you're constantly adding to your welcome email, for example. I'd create a welcome email workflow, and then every time that you add someone to that list, it automatically sends them the welcome email. So all your assistant would need to do, instead of copying and pasting the welcome email and putting it in Gmail, which is totally fine, they can do that too, or they can just drop the email addresses into a segment. And so the segments here, you would just create, it's just like a list. You know, these are all of my new enrollees, and that's probably what I would call that segment. and then they would drop the emails in there. Now, to create a workflow, they're really beautiful emails. And so let's just look at this one, for example, like the welcome sequence. You click customize, and I would take that script that I created, and the trigger would be when someone is added to the segment called new enrollees, then that's when this trigger would happen. This email would automatically get sent once someone's email is added into the new enrollee column or segment. And then you click over here on the actual email and click edit. And we're just going to copy and paste. You can totally customize this. You can drop your own images in here. You can add all the texts. You can, from the welcome email script that I said, and just drop it right here. You can add links. You can add your social stuff, whatever you want, and just make it, and your assistant can kind of play around with it. It's drag and drop and really pretty and easy to use. So that is what I would have your assistant do there on the customer funnel for the welcome emails. Now that they've received the welcome email, they need a lifestyle overview. And kind of from experience, people aren't necessarily going to just jump on, you know, if you send them an email, a mass email like in the welcome email that says, hey, book your lifestyle overview, not many people are really going to book an appointment with you. So if you have your assistant rather jump into this process and say, hey, we are so excited to have you on our team. I would love to get you on so-and-so's calendar so that you can get your customized wellness plan set up, and you can ask all of your essential oil questions one-on-one with an essential oil expert. When are you free? And then you basically they can either call and have that conversation, which would be preferable if your assistant is comfortable doing that, or they can send an email or even the text message through Text Magic. So if they're going to call, I would recommend maybe having them have a Google Voice number so that their personal number is protected and not everybody has it. Or you can even do, well, freeconferencecall.com wouldn't work for that purpose, but yeah, play around with how you would want that to happen. But your assistant can help you is what my point is. And again, the continuing education resources. So I've included a whole list of things your assistant can do to help you with the continuing education. Are you ready? Because this is kind of crazy. There's 10 things your assistant can do to help you with your continuing education. And as a recap, before I get into those, the continuing education, this is in the Back to Basics, how they have the 8-week series of different topics that you would be teaching each week to encourage a full, I guess, robust customer experience. So they are getting to know all that there is to know about the oils, and they walk away like, ooh, now I know this, I'm going to order this. And I feel like I really understand and feel confident in using my products. So they will want to get on LRP. So they will want to continue to share and learn and grow. And so that's the intention. And then once they finish the 8-week series, you can send them a little prize that they've completed all 8. Some people like to send one even at 4 if they've completed 4, and then another one at 8. And so that's one option as well. What was I going to say? Oh, but if you do this, if you decide to do these live or even recorded, I would give a code word on each different call or webinar that you do. So if you're on your call, maybe partway through, I have oils, now what? You might say, okay, everybody that's trying to earn prizes for completing all 4 or all 8 of these series, the code word is, and write this down, is, you might say immortelle or whatever it is. And they write it down on their little punch card so they know that when they turn in their little, take a screenshot of it and email it to your assistant that says, yay, I completed all 4 or all 8, then your assistant can send them a prize. And so make sure you give a code word in all of them so that so your whole team isn't like, hey, I watched all 8. And you're like, did you really though? Really? Like, I need to know, I need some proof that you did. And so that's the overview of the continuing education series. And I've included a whole folder with the PDFs that you can send to people. I've included the PowerPoints, and these are all from Dana Moore and from Tara Crawford and Elise Chedevy. So I don't take credit for these. I did not create them. I'm just compiling them for you so that you can use them. And the punch cards are in there as well. Okay, so here's the things your assistant can do to help you in this process. I'm gonna take a drink real fast because I'm talking really quick. Okay, and I'm really excited because this is really fun. Okay, so 1 through 10, the first is they can obviously create the Zoom meeting for each one, whether you have a specific meeting link for each different class, or you have a webinar that people register for, or you have or you have one meeting that like a standalone meeting for your continuing education class, and it's recurring meeting, and they have to register to attend. And so you can do it multiple ways. I'd probably do the recurring meeting and they have to register to attend so that you can email them and send them some material beforehand. Then they can create a post in Canva that promotes the continuing education series and say, and you can either email that out, your assistant can email that, they can text it, they can post it on your social media, they can basically just advertise and promote the course for you. And then with all the people that registered, then they can send an email to all those people that says, hey, just a reminder that you registered for our class tomorrow called I Have Oils Now What? Here's the Zoom link. Here's the class PDF to download so you can follow along and take notes. Here's the time of the class. Be sure to change them into multiple time zones since you're working with people all over the world probably. You can include the punch card and say, we're going to be giving a code word during part of the class, so make sure you write it down on this punch card so you can get a gift or a freebie later. So that's something your assistant can do. They can also, during the live event, they can even help manage the event with you. If their schedule allows, they can jump on those live calls and monitor the chat, stream it to the Facebook group, and kind of help support you if there are things like, oh yeah, I'll make sure that I send that to you later. Like I know that a lot of you, there are things in a class that you're like, I need to remember to do this, but your assistant can be the one that takes notes of those and follows up with you later. Hey, you said you were going to do these things on the class. I can do these. Would you like to do those? And they can kind of work with you that way. Okay. Then during, let's see, after the event, they can grab the recording and obviously share it with the appropriate people. Your assistant can create a tracker sheet in Trello, Google Sheets, or elsewhere to keep track of all of the attendees, like how when you do a Zoom event, you can actually export the list of people that registered into an Excel file, and you can take that data and do whatever you want with it and create a new column that says, attended, and maybe it has a column for all 8 classes. And you can put a little check mark when they've attended each one, and your assistant's kind of tracking who has attended each one, so they know who to send gifts to later. Number 9, they can obviously send the gifts once you give them that big package of material. And then finally, if you intend to record these and have them available for people even after the call has taken place, then like some people can attend live. I know it's recommended that they join live if they possibly can, because then they get that interaction with you. But if you do want to make them available as recordings later, there's a couple of options for you. So you can create a closed Facebook group, and then your assistant, when I say you, I mean your assistant, can drop in all of the different recording videos into units. So Facebook units are sort of like modules or class lessons that you can put into Facebook, and it's organized really nicely there. And so you can include the PDF download, the webinar link, and and maybe the punch card into each different lesson or unit, and that way anybody who's missed a call, they can be dropped into that Facebook group, and your assistant can verify. There's a way in Facebook where you can ask questions before when they say, hey, I want to join this group, and you can have a spot that says, are you a member of such and such team? Please include your wellness advocate number. So before your assistant adds anybody to that Facebook group and approves them, they would check to make sure that they're on your team in the back office. And so that way you're not getting everybody in the world on that group, right? And so you can manage actually your people in your team. So that's one way you can do it. You can actually even go back into Flowdesk and create a workflow, like a drip email campaign, where you take the recordings and you email it to people who have maybe requested to always get the recordings afterwards, and create a workflow. So every single workflow is scheduled to go out once a week for the next 8 weeks. Or if people want them all at once, then you could put them all, in one email and say, here are all of the recordings for the 8-week series. It's kind of up to you how you decide to do that. But that is how I would use an assistant to help you manage your continuing education series. I feel like I'm going through a workout right now. I'm really hungry. All this talking. Okay. Then they can obviously ship the prizes for people that completed the series. Now, LRP support, this is something, I don't know if you've heard me talk about this, but I'm going to talk about it real quick. If you've heard Betty Torres talk about her retention rate in the company, This is her magic trick and what she does, and it's genius. She has the highest retention rate in the entire company, and her secret is that she supports people for 9 months on their LRP. And what that looks like is during their lifestyle overview with her, she actually, you know, that part that says customize your 3-month wellness plan right on the thing on the lifestyle overview. They get to choose which products they want for the next 3 months. They're basically setting up like their wish list for their LRP for 3 months. And so what she does is she gets their login, their doTERRA login with them, with their support and their permission, I mean, and says, hey, for the next 9 months, I'm your gal. I'm going to be working with you for 9 months to help you get your order set up, make sure you're getting what you want each month, and even for the first few months doing it for you. And I'll let you know before your order is about to process, so you can let me know if you want anything changed. And so the genius is that so for the first 3 months, she's actually sending them a text message that says, hey, your LRP or your monthly doTERRA order is about to process in a couple of days. I know that during your lifestyle overview with me, you said you wanted these products. Is that still the case, or do you want any changes? And I've even included that script right here, month 1 to 3 script. And your assistant can schedule these out again in text magic, which is so great. So you might be thinking, oh my gosh, supporting someone for 9 months in their LRP, how overwhelming. But if your assistant schedules these messages out in advance, like just in bulk, they're scheduled, they're done, like it's scheduled, it's ready. And so they can do that for you and using these scripts right here, which is so awesome. So then month 4 to 6, what she does is she helps them do their LRP. Instead of doing it for them, she says, hey, your LRP is about to process in a couple of days. Now I want to teach you how to jump into your back office and change your own orders. When is a good time? And so your assistant obviously can help set up that conversation. And then here's the script to do that, to send that text message reminder. And then months 7 through 9, this is where they get to now do their own LRP, and you're just reminding them that it's going to happen. And you just say, hey, this is just a friendly reminder that your order is about to process in a couple of days. Be sure to make any changes that you want before then. And then on month 9, you may want to add this message. It also, so it looks like you don't need me anymore to help you with your monthly orders. So be sure to schedule a reminder in your phone or your calendar or whatever, so that you don't miss your LRP that's going to process each month, and so you can change it before it does. Know that I'm always here to support you. This doesn't mean that I'm going away, but what this does is it means that every single month that person is getting a one-on-one check-in, and not just with their LRP, but they can be like, oh, I actually had a question about this and this and that, and they have constant support for 9 months, so they really feel like by the end they're forever users. And so your assistant can help schedule this out, which is so awesome. And they can even, with the permission of your customer, they can even go into the customer's account during those first few months and help them to change their orders and do those things instead of having you do it. And what Betty does is when she's setting up their LRP during their lifestyle overview, she only schedules these on like the 5th and the 10th of every month. So instead of all month long, she's like, oh my gosh, I'm helping everybody with their LRP all month long. She's only doing it on the 5th and the 10th. That's the only days that she has them scheduled, so she's not doing it all the time. So that's the genius of the LRP support and how your assistant can jump into that process. And then again, just like in the past one, you're going to do the 3, 6, and 11.5 month check-ins. So prospect to customer, and we did the customer reactivation. So now I want to take a minute and show you. Let's see, really quick. I'm going to stop my sharing real quick. Kaylin, you're so welcome, and thank you for, and thank you so much, Kaylin, for typing in all of those links. I appreciate that. Okay, so does anybody have any questions before I move on? Need a breather real quick? Okay, all right, here we go, moving on. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen again. Okay, now we're gonna look at, we've kind of talked about the customers, now let's talk about the builders. So we're going to go to builder reactivation. And again, the reactivation funnels are recommended only for the platinums and above because it's so much, right? There's so many people that it's, especially if you're newer in the business or younger in the business, that you should probably just put your people in the builder funnel or the customer funnel instead of going and reactivating them, unless you need to. Totally, this is your business, you do what you want, but I don't want to overwhelm you with all the boards and all the things. Okay, so here's the builder reactivation. we're going to call this person Jill because she was there first. Okay, Jill is moving along on our funnel, and this is someone who maybe once was building, but is kind of dropped off and is no longer building anymore. You all have those people, right? We know who these people are. What I would do is on your weekly meeting with your assistant is I would be talking with your I would be talking with your assistant, and I would say, okay, let's look at my back office while we're on the call together. And you pull up your back office and you say, okay, here are all the people that my builders that need to be reactivated. And your assistant is taking massive notes. Or even better yet, your assistant, while you're pulling up the back office, has your builder reactivation funnel pulled up in front of them. And they're actually just creating cards right then and there. As you say names, you're like, bum, 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 and they're just adding all the names right there on the call. And so then you have a whole list of people here in the column of people that need to be reactivated as builders. So what this looks like is that you are going to call them, and maybe you set up a time that you and your assistant can be on the call together, and they're just kind of taking notes in the background, or maybe it's just you that makes this call and then they help the rest of the process. But here's some scripts you can use, like, hey, how are you doing? I'm just reaching out because some big things are happening in doTERRA, and this is obviously really true right now because of the Founders Club. If they were once building, they may be reignited to build again, knowing that there's $100,000 on the line if they decide to go into Founders Club, or all the other things that are happening, right? There are just big things going on in doTERRA, and it's really cool how everything is shifting online. So for some people, that makes it less intimidating to do it online. For some people, it scares them, but for me, I like that. And then you can just kind of go through the scripts, point out, how close they are to their next rank, or their next power of 3, or the next builder that they need to make a big goal, and then ask them what they want. Say, is this even something that you would love to keep doing? Like, what do you want? Where do you want to see your future? What do you want your goals to be? And then just be quiet and let them talk. Just let them talk and talk and talk. And then you can then integrate doTERRA into that and say, that's so awesome that that's your goal, that you want to be a massage therapist. This is how doTERRA can help support that. Or it's so awesome that you want your husband to not have to work at his day job. Here's how doTERRA can support that. And then kind of help them match the visions together, right? And so that's how you're going to do the initial contact to reactivate them. And then you're going to do the build guide overview with them, which is basically you're just pulling up the build guide and you're walking them through, even if they've already seen it before, because if they need to be reactivated, they kind of need a refresher on some things that, like, what am I doing and what are the next steps? They may need to start a names list again. They may need to do some of those basic steps again. And so there's some basic resources for that to happen. And your assistant, again, can help get these people on your calendar. So the initial call may be something that you and your assistant just kind of plan together, like, hey, Thursday night from like 7 to 9, I'm going to be making phone calls. Can you be there? Or can you, whatever. And then the next one, after you've done that initial call, you can say, hey, my call with so-and-so went really great, and they're ready to start going again. Can you get them on my calendar for a build guide overview? And that is what your assistant will do. They will get them on your schedule. Now, the next call after they've decided, yes, I'm ready to get going again, is kind of their 3-month goals and their plan. So here's kind of a checklist of what that looks like. First, get their next classes on their calendar. So this is obviously super key, right? They're planning for some future classes that are happening in the future, and help your builder kind of set up a schedule that in their day that will optimize their time. This is their success schedule. I almost forgot what that was, that Elise talks about in calls 46 to 49. And then you can help them set up a Google Calendar if they don't already have one, and then create a 30, 60, 90-day plan with that person. What do they want to achieve in 30, 60, 90 days? And then help them create realistic action items to make that plan happen. And then you're going to get them enrolled in oil games. And I know a lot of people have been asking, so we have back to basics and then we have oil games. Do they do both? Do they do one? How does that work? And so we actually asked Patrick and Elise directly, and they said they do not have to do both. However, if we want to, because let's say that, so we know the oil game starts on the 1st of every month, right? What if you reactivated or brought in a new builder at the beginning or the middle of the month? They're waiting 2 weeks for the next one to start. And so what you might want to do is say, hey, go to dailymentorcalls.com, start listening to some of the calls, and then on the 1st of the month, then you can start joining oil games. and it's a more rapid paced movement where they're getting those calls every day. They're getting the accountability partners. And so kind of gauge from them their pace. If they're like, well, I really don't have a lot of time and I'd really like to go at this on my own pace, I'm not sure I'm ready to like go rapid fire like oil games, maybe that's not for them. Maybe they just need to do the daily mentor calls. So that's how we've kind of worked it out with our team, is that you don't need to do both, but we kind of recommend that if the end of the month isn't near, start them at least getting the daily mentor calls going, because that's getting them moving, right? That's getting them already in the process of thinking and moving for this goal. So the next step is to get your mentor call set up with this person, whether it's a team call, mentor call, or whether it's one-on-one with you. We've even included some resources here for the suggested format for these calls. You can use, and you can even use the success check-in form from Share Success. Wow, that's a lot of S's. And you can use those to help support those calls and what they should look like and how you would conduct a mentor call. And now you're going to move them to your builder funnel. So yay, let's move Jill over to our builder funnel. Oh, there we go. Move to our builder funnel. We're going to move this person to, where are we? I'm going to pull up this one real quick, even though this is not the one I want. Okay, we're just going to do this real quick. Okay. So now we're going to go to our builder funnel. And by the way, I didn't mention this, but on the free version of Trello, you get power-ups. So you get one power-up per board. So when you've basically, a power-up is something that will increase the ability of this board. And you can do power-ups by going over here. So first of all, you would click on show menu and you can see add a power-up. And when you start searching power-ups, you can integrate it with a calendar. You can do card mirroring. If you have people that are, like say that Jill is actually going through the customer funnel and the builder funnel at the same time, there's a mirror card or mirror funnel, or sorry, mirror power-up that's called card mirroring with Unito. And what it does is any change you make to one card, it will also make the changes to the other card and the other board. You can only do it it can only be in 2 places at once. It can't be in 4 places at once. So that's one option. There's so many different power-ups that you can use. I really like the calendar one. I really like, gosh, yeah, you can decide what you want on here. Integrate with Google Drive, Slack, whatever it is that you want to do. But you can only have 1 per board on the free version. And you have to activate it on every single board if you want that same power-up to be on every board. Okay, so here Jill is now in our builder funnel. So actually, no, just kidding. Yeah, okay, yes. So we did already a lot of this. Let's see, let me make sure this is right. So they were already in the builder reactivation funnel. And they actually don't need to be over here. What they need to be is in their your qualifying leader board, maybe if they're a qualifying builder. And so let me show you actually that builder real quick, or that funnel. Because once they're going through the process, you mostly just need to help track their success from then on out. If they're hitting power of 3, what they're ranking at, what their goals are. And again, you would make all of those notes on their little card. So let's go to your qualifying leaderboard template. And this one is pretty simple, but the idea is here when you're doing your mentor calls with your builders, you'll have all of your frontline leaders up here, and you may have 8 of them, or you may have 2 of them. And you're going to, let's say that this was Jill from our other thing. I didn't move her over here using the move feature, but let's just pretend that I did. And you're gonna look at your frontline leader and all their frontline or their qualifiers, and you're gonna put them here. So if your frontline leader, and you're gonna change this name to John, and John has 6 different qualifiers underneath him, you're gonna make a card for every single one. And same thing for this frontline leader, put all of their qualifying leaders underneath them. And this is again something you could do with your assistant. During your weekly call, you pull up the back office, your assistant pulls up the Trello board, and you just share your screen, or she shares her screen, whatever you want to do. And 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 you say, okay, here are the qualifying leaders for John, and then they're typing in all the information, and then they know to later go in and get all the details and copy and paste them here. And that way, so on your mentor calls, this is really something really genius that I think Callie Wilson does. When she's mentoring someone, she won't mentor them unless they have their Trello board set up. So when she has a mentor call, and they both get on their computer, and they're like, okay, let's look at your people. Where are they? Who needs support? And if they haven't set up a Trello board, she's like, I'm sorry, I can't even work with you because you don't know what you're doing. You don't know who you're looking at, who needs support. I need to see it, and you need to see it. And this is the best way that we can work together and make sure that this call is successful. Because if we're just going to sit on the phone for 15 minutes and talk about what would be great, we're not going to get anywhere. And so she makes sure that they all have their own boards. And you can get all of your leaders to have their own boards by going to meganlloyd.org. Let's see, Trello-funnels, I think is what it is. And that's where some of you got your funnels from. And then during the mentor call, she just pulls it up. So if she's meeting with John, okay, so let's look at everybody in your team, John, your qualifying leaders. Where are they? Where are they stuck? And then they pull up and start taking notes about all of them. Where are they? Have they all done the back to basic training? Have you helped them present their first class? Have you co-presented with them? Are they now teaching on their own? What ranks have they already hit? What Power of 3 bonuses have they achieved? Anyway, all these different things. Oh, I should mention, every time I talk about the the daily mentor calls in the boards, I actually created a SoundCloud, because even though it's super great to have all of the daily mentor calls on the website, I found that it's easier for me on the go to have a SoundCloud going, and then I just put my Bluetooth in, and then I can just listen to the calls while I'm doing laundry or doing dishes, driving wherever I'm going, and then that's how I listen to calls. And it's harder to do it on the website. And so I've created a SoundCloud playlist that has all of the daily mentor calls and all of the Find a Builder calls. And so those are, anytime that I talked about the back to basics and any of the funnels, you'll see these links there. And SoundCloud is free. You just download the app to your phone and then click on the playlist and save it as one of your favorites, and then stick in the Bluetooth and go. And so that's how I get people to, that's how we do, that's a really great way to do that. So that is your qualifying leaderboard. Let's see. Really quick, I want to stop and make sure that oh, I'm so glad. So much info. Yes, this is so much info, Donna. I'm glad that you all are liking this though. Oh, thank you, Bailey, for putting that link in there. I really do appreciate that. Okay, any questions so far before I move on to the last couple of parts of this? Okay, take a breather. And here we go again, okay. Okay, so we've done actually most of them. So most of them, let's make sure. We've done our customer reactivation, prospect, customer. We've done our builder reactivation, qualifying leaderboard. And now let's get into some other fun things too. So I actually have a shipping tracker and a project board. So this is the project board, and it looks pretty simple, but it's gonna save you so much time, because this is how I organize my life. When I am going to bed every night, you know how sometimes you stay up thinking of all the things you need to do? Before I go to bed, I go into my board, and by the way, you can have Trello on your phone. If I haven't mentioned that already, download the Trello app so that you have access to that wherever you go. And it's super simple and pretty, just like this. Now you're gonna do your brain dump. All the things that have been rolling around in your mind all day, all the things that you wish would happen or that you would love to have happen, that you would love your assistant to do, all of those things, just brain dump them and just drop them in here. And then the genius is you don't need to have all of those in the queue right now. Things are actually happening. Just get them out of your head so you don't have to keep thinking about them and worrying about them. And on your board meetings with your assistant, I like to also have this one pulled up so that when you're brain dumping all the things that you would love to have happen, your assistant is actually making all these notes right here in the project board and just dropping them in. And then you say, the assistant or you should say, okay, now here are the 2 priorities or 2 or 3 priorities that we need to start working on next. Of all the things that we've just brain dumped, we're gonna go, this one is in the queue right now. And you should only have a few of those right there in queue. You shouldn't have all your brain dump in the queue. And then you can move it to working on it now. Like, okay, not only is it in the queue, but we are actively working on this project. And then the most satisfying part is moving it to done. And and so that's kind of how that's how I organize my life. And that's how you should organize your life. Well, not that you have to, but that's how my mind works. And if your mind doesn't work like this, if you don't want to use your boards like this, if you just want to send your assistant messages on Marco Polo or email, and you just say, okay, here's another idea I had, then your assistant knows I need to put this in the Trello board, and they just go and they just drop it in there for you. And so you can be totally removed from this if you want to, and have your assistant just jump in and start keeping track of all of your thoughts and your brain dumps and what's in the queue and what's being worked on. And then you can jump in and see, like, okay, what are we even working on right now? What is my assistant even doing currently? And that's how you can keep track of that. I saw some chats come in, so I just want to make sure I'm not missing out this. It says, Donna says, how much could a person without an assistant use this tool without getting bogged down? I know a lot of people that are using this tool without an assistant. And so it really is just up to you. Like the whole point of this is to create a funnel that works for you. If there are parts of this that you're like, whoa, I am not there yet, I am not there, then don't feel like you have to be. Make this totally your part, and it'll put a pin in it and say, I'm going to get to that one when I feel like I can. Yes, Kayleen, this is a great way to stay organized, even if you don't have an assistant. Okay, now let's go to the shipping tracker. Okay, shipping tracker. This is so awesome, and you can even remove all these months. So what I've done is, when you go to the post office and you have all these receipts of things you've shipped, and you know that something has been shipped, and it's hard to remember where all of that is. Even in Excel, I don't feel like it's harder to organize there. What I've done is I have a little card template again right here. So whenever you have something that needs to be shipped, whether it's a prize for someone who has finished their all of their 8-week continuing education series, whether it's a sample that needs to be shipped, whether, whatever it is, then we're going to just put that person's name here. We've used John already. Let's use Sally. Okay, so now Sally has the template already here. What's her name, her address, her doTERRA ID, what's being sent, and why. Now, this is silly, but from years and years of shipping, and you probably know this too, that sometimes it's hard to remember now, why did I ship that again? Like, what was it for? Was it for a January LRP challenge? Was it for oil camp? Was it just, samples? Like, what was I even shipping that for? So as much as you can, put some notes here, and then include the tracking number and the date that it was shipped. And then when it was shipped, you can either drag it into the months, or if you don't find the months helpful, you can just change the name of this and say shipped. And say, I have 2 columns. I have those that are waiting to be shipped and those that are shipped. And if that's what's easiest for you, then that is so awesome. This is totally customizable to however you want it to be. And that way, when Sally is like, hey, I know that I received something, and I was supposed to receive something, but I never got it. I think I won like a BOGO challenge that you were doing on your team a while ago. And then you can pull it up and be like, well, let's look. And then you can pull up their tracking number and say, yay, there's your tracking number, and this is why it didn't go out, or whatever. And then you can easily support them that way. And again, your assistant can manage this whole thing for you. So if you have something that needs to be shipped, just text your assistant, email your assistant and say, hey, I need you to send something to so-and-so. Here's their information. Can you put them on the board? And then they'll go put them on the board and get it shipped. So yeah, that is that. Let me check the chat real quick, really fast. And okay, and I have one other board that I created, and this one's super simple. And I haven't everybody yet, so I'll just show it to you right now. I've created a doTERRA calendar of all the things that they do every single year, and I've put them in a calendar. And I need to add this into the templates that I'm sharing, but this is something that some people have, but not everybody. Okay, so we know that doTERRA does all the things, right? We know that they do when all things are happening. It's sometimes hard to remember what's happening each month. And so I've actually just dropped them into a board for you. So January is Diamond Club qualification month. And I've included the link to the website. I've included what the qualifications even are. If you're like, oh, I know, sometimes there's so many things to remember. And so I've just included what qualifications even mean. And then we know that Diamond Club applications are due in February, and the incentive trip usually happens in February. I've included, oh, that one doesn't have all the stuff. Let's see. Okay, leadership retreat usually happens around this time. And so I've included the link to that. Spring tours, and again, some of these are changing so much because of COVID right now that I've included some of the links, but some of them are virtual and some of them are waiting to hear back, you know, what's going to be happening with all the tours. And so I've included, well, yeah, I didn't even include the links on the tours because we're waiting for those ones. I've included the conventions that I know of that are happening. So Japan's is usually in April, Australia and Europe is usually in May. And I've even included some things that, you know, when do I start even promoting these to my team? Like in April, you should probably start promoting the incentive trip because then the qualification month starts in May. And so you should probably start telling people, did you know that you can win an incentive trip by doing these things and you can go and live on a beach for a week? And then they're qualifying for the next like 6 months or whatever. I've even included some of the times when BOGOs sometimes happen. Now I'm not a fortune teller, so I can't say when they're always going to happen, but those are some of the times when they seem to happen is in April and in November-ish. But they did one this year that was, actually they usually do it in November and July, but they did one in April this year, I think just to encourage sales during COVID. I've also included, let's see, is there anything else on here? The Diamond Retreat, Founders Club 2.0. So if you click on that, it includes all the things. You can click on the link to learn more. If there are assistants watching this and you haven't already gotten to know about what Founders Club is, go to that link, figure it out because it's something that people you're supporting will want you to help with. Oh yeah, and here's like in September is when you should start promoting Diamond Club. Here's when the co-impact sourcing trip is happening this year, if it's still happening, and all those other things. So yeah, that is the board, and it changes obviously every year with, oh yeah, Japan, yep, thanks Howard, has canceled their thing this year, and they're doing the virtual one. That makes sense. So yeah, so all these things are super fluctuating, which is why I actually haven't sent this one out to everybody because all the dates and things are a little bit different. So that's what I've created, everybody. I hope that that you find this helpful. Does anybody have any questions with this, the rapid spitfire that I just threw at you just now? And as assistants or as leaders, if you have questions, feel free to jump in and let me know. You probably are like, I don't even know what to say. I don't even know if I have questions because there's so much information. So what I recommend is just jump in and start playing with it. And then as you kind of play with it, just, you know, just start making it your own and working with your assistant and your who you're working for and supporting, and just figuring out what together works best for you. And but if you're not having your weekly calls with your assistant, if you do have one, I promise you're going to have a harder time feeling like this is working. So you need to have weekly calls with your assistant. Awesome. You're welcome, everybody. I'm so glad that you find this helpful. Let's see, free version or paid version. What do I recommend? The free version is totally fine, unless you feel like you need a lot of power-ups. So you can have unlimited power-ups on the paid version for every board. But if you just want to use the free version, that's totally fine too, because then you can have unlimited boards in your personal boards. You can just only have a limited number of team boards. So it depends on if you want to be able to share boards with your team and see and see their boards in action, then that may be something that you want to do the paid version for. But you can even just have them share them on your Zoom call, your mentor calls, and have them pull them up for you so you don't have to see them, or like you don't have to have the actual template. So it's really up to you. I think the free version is what I think is fine. Cool. Any other questions? Awesome. Well, you all have a lovely day. And look at that. We stayed almost just over an hour, 3:35. That's awesome. Well, you all have a lovely day and we will see you later. Bye-bye.